Hey guys, Jay here, and welcome back to the channel. We're diving straight into this one because effectively leading up to this proposal, we've seen a rather concerning series of events, and now we're seeing more concerning red flags, if you will. And these really are the first signs of people working outside what is expected, starting to produce stuff in a very unorthodox manner. We're even seeing it with spend proposals that are very confusing. They're not coming from the person who's actually applying for the funds themselves. It's not really working within the confines of what paid per job expects. Now, this in itself has got overwhelming support on it, but nonetheless, it's got 15 hours till it actually finishes. And what we've actually seen is around 20 hours ago is Vegas just simply take it upon himself, just go ahead and change that information before the proposal is even passed. And like I said, these are the first red flags that you're going to want to pay attention to. These are really the first signs which tell us that people are not really caring anymore. And effectively, nobody else has these direct lines of communication. And Vegas managed to gain these during his time with Terra Rebels when we embodied and trusted these people to lead the blockchain to a better future. And in fact, they didn't. They led it to the exact opposite. And it's just been one spiral after another spiral after another spiral with more of these terrible centralized teams. So when people sit there and they say, well, how do we really get in this situation to begin with? I really go back to Terra Rebels. I look at the root cause of this situation and the fact that a lot of these people are still around, and the fact that he's acting in a very centralized manner means he's got no respect for his fellow validators. He's got no respect for the chain's ecosystem, and essentially what people are actually seeing is a rather positive spin on something that's actually very negative. And the reason why I say this is because I've been here for 3 years. I know exactly the pain that Terra Rebels has caused, including Vegas. So a lot of you sit there and you say, well, Jay, how did all of these Luna validators get so much voting power? How were they able to maintain the positions that they still have to this day? And it was actually Terra Rebels. So this would have been Ed Kim, this would have been Tobias, this would have been Vegas, this would have been Rexy. All of these people decided amongst themselves that it would be a good idea for them to better serve the Luna ecosystem, not the LUNC ecosystem. So what they did was reactivated the staking and delegation to the active validator set only. What this actually means and meant at the time was no new validators could join that active set. This left around 66 validators to scoop up buckets, and I mean buckets, of rewards. Can you imagine the distribution on 66 validators in comparison to the reward distribution now? It is substantial. But what Terra Rebels actually did, and we covered this heavily on the channel, it was one of the reasons why I was so outspoken. They went ahead and they purchased validators and nodes from older ecosystems that were no longer functioning. So they went to these ex-project owners and they said, look, we'll buy your validators off you. And they began to run their validators while the rest of us had to wait, and they only embodied the active Luna validator set and themselves. And what this did was produce the first red flag for us to say, well, hang on a minute, this isn't good. And you're probably thinking, well, Jay, they must have allowed the staking for new validators to join on board quite quickly, but no, it took around 2 to 3 months. We didn't see that reactivation until August, and that original proposal we looked at there was in June. So there's a massive gap in the time when really you would have wanted to have embodied each and every person that wanted to spin up a validator to ensure that there wasn't going to be a centralized future in hand. But they did this for a very specific reason. They did it so that they could hopefully control the vote. They could keep themselves in power. They would have validators that hopefully gained a lot of voting power, which they did at the time. Vegas has already been himself through one validator, got up to a lot of voting power, but the community started to realize his central grabbing of power, his need to go around governance and do what he feels is best. And a lot of the times it hadn't worked out for him. It's just this time it's worked out significantly because, again, he gained those direct lanes of communication with CoinMarketCap and Binance during a time when we empowered them to gain those direct lanes of communication. So is anybody else going to have the ability to go and directly communicate with Binance or coin market cap? No, because Vegas is a gatekeeper and he gatekeeps those communication lanes, and nobody else will be getting direct communication but him. So thus, only he can come in and solve the problem. He has created the environment where he benefits most. So going forward, another thing that everybody really needs to understand when it comes down to people like Vegas and people like Rexy and all of these other people that were involved with Terra Rebels is the fact that they made a deal to sell the entire chain upriver to Neblio, and they attempted to get crowdfunding from Neblio for selling a portion of our ecosystem behind our backs. These are the kind of things that it leads to. It starts with a very small centralized flag popping up, and then it leads to situations like this, where once again, if you just go into the classic Agora Terra.money, you can actually traverse the pain and the agony we went through trying to remove Terra Rebels, then trying to remove the next team, and then having a vote of no confidence in the team after that. And every centralized team since the birth of Terra Rebels has done nothing but take this chain backwards, hold this chain, hold it in position. And realistically, since we've been acting decentralized, since we've been working with Genuine Labs, we've been seeing a lot of upgrades. We've seen the deforking. We've seen us being pulled back into parity with the broader cosmos. And from my perspective, it's been doing really well. And a lot of these people are simply trumping up issues. They control zones where they can benefit mostly. And everyone themselves is essentially just trying to grab for power at this moment in time. And what are we seeing at the moment? Oh, you guessed it. An attempt to dilute the overall staking rewards on Terra Classic by introducing a USTC staking program that has a optional funded pool. What this is actually going to lead to is them further proposing later on down the line that we divert all of the USTC to this staking pool, and all we're going to do is dilute our user base, we're going to fraction our user base, and we're going to cause more factions and more friction as people wonder what they should follow. Should they follow this? Should they follow that? We're essentially fostering in the same environments that we've fostered in many times before, but this time I'm going to be more outspoken. I'm going to keep calling this stuff out, and I'm going to keep dragging up all of the historical counts that we had to go through with all of these bad actors. I mean, Ed Kim took us through a situation of believing that we were all going to get grants, that projects were going to get help, and all of these other projects that we're building on chain were going to get some kind of sustainable program that would help them develop. Ed made so many false promises. What happened? Disappeared, was more interested in his own project. And this is what happens time and time again, because as soon as you empower an individual group of people, right, to act in a centralized capacity, they're going to begin to mute out other people. They're going to use those direct lanes of connections to benefit themselves. And essentially, everybody's going to have a conflict of interest. Everybody's got a project at this point that they themselves can directly benefit from. We see it in today's ecosystem and structure, let alone back in 2022 and 2023. We've come a long way, and we've had to fight very hard to maintain this decentralized ecosystem and to prevent a Six Samurai takeover or a group like Tobias. We must be very cautious of these centralized moves, these centralized happenings behind the scenes, because essentially, right, he's just simply chosen to do it because he knows he can go on X, he can make the tweet, he can benefit from it. And once again, we begin to empower these same people that led us to the situation we're in at this moment in time. You could make a documentary and people would not believe. They'd say it's not real, this didn't happen, but it did. And then when you say at the end of the documentary, and these people are still in Terra Classic and they've got new projects and they continue to reign in our ecosystem. I'm not happy about this, and I'm very shocked that other people are supporting this, they're liking it, they're retweeting it, and they're boosting this person's idea that they can go and act centralized. Like I said, I'm going to keep speaking out on it. And aside that, guys, stay safe, stay humble, stay aware, and I'm going to catch you in the next one.